Hi, this is Seema Arora, and this is a podcast on sustainability, climate, business, economy, and tech. In today's podcast, I'm going to talk about a story that appeared, or rather, an editorial that appeared in the New York Times, which is titled Trump Lost the Trade War to China. It's written by Nicholas Kristof. A Wall Street Journal editorial from today also echoes the same sentiment and says China will exploit the leverage of rare earths and that the deal only restored the status quo. Now, the article from the New York Times goes on to elaborate how the US has lost the trade war with Xi Jinping because the president of China threatened the US with export controls of its rare earth and rare magnets. China currently controls 85% of the processing capacity of these materials. And yes, these are important components in the semiconductor and electronics space, including applications in defense, energy, medical equipment, and so on. So there is no doubt that America is inherently dependent on China today. President Trump is trying to overhaul the unfair rules by which Beijing has played the cards all the way since its entry into the WTO. President Trump is playing the short term game and the long term game as it should with China. For starters, President Trump is making China responsible for the role it has played in the fentanyl trade into America. This includes fentanyl precursor chemicals, the pills, the powders that have found their way into the US territory. This is no trivial matter. In 2023 alone, there have been 75,000 deaths related to fentanyl. According to White House estimates, fentanyl cost has been estimated to be around 9% of the GDP in 2024, though estimates from Goldman Sachs reveal it to be as low as 0.5% of the GDP. China has turned a blind eye to this trade and has even been complicit. President Trump has addressed this head on. It should be a moral imperative for China to stop the inflow of these substances, and certainly it should not benefit monetarily from these inflows. Still, President Trump has given a tariff relief to China to help control any inflows. This is a very important point within the trade negotiations that has not even been mentioned in the editorial, and it should be on top of line. The second win is that US will now be able to sell its soybeans and farm products to China. The third win is that President Trump has forced President Xi to reveal his hand. And now it is like the emperor has no clothes. Xi Jinping has been cornered into revealing that there is no other leverage that he really has. By tackling it, President Trump will ensure that this threat does not remain in the long term. In a matter of 4 to 5 years, the US will never be dependent on China for the strategic elements ever. This is a win, as policies are not set for today or tomorrow, but for the long run. So, what has the president been doing? He has been aggressively pushing for these deals on rare earths with Australia, with countries in South Asia, including Japan, Malaysia, and the Philippines. And the fact that it is on top of President Trump's mind is also seeping directly into how he has influenced the industry and banking stalwarts to follow this line of thinking. So, for example, JP Morgan announced a 1.5 trillion security and resilience initiative which focuses on core sectors of national importance, with 10 billion being dedicated to rare earths and magnets. So there have been two deals that have been done, and one of them was with MP Materials, which was a deal facilitated by JP Morgan. It entailed Department of Defense and MP Materials to come up with $1 billion of financing, and this project is in conjunction with Goldman Sachs. So that's a pretty good indication of how this administration is providing the wherewithal and the guidance to banks and forging these new innovative deals already. And another example of that is there has been another deal in which JP Morgan has taken an equity stake, and this is with Linus Rare Earths. And this is again something that will facilitate the processing and discovery of these rare earth materials. Processing of these rare earths is dirty, but the US will do it better and have other trading partners that the US can rely on. What is happening here is that President Trump has brought this at the forefront. Now let's talk about what everyone has been saying. Xi Jinping has won. Well, first of all, he's facing a very tough economy at home. The unemployment rate between 16 to 24-year-olds in China is currently about 19%. That's not trivial. Secondly, there is a real estate downfall that is going on in China and that has still not found a bottom. You can find some details on this in an IMF paper by Kenneth Rogoff and Yang that details what is going on in the real estate market. So, China needs all the help where US customers can buy its products. China has won over Trump in this deal is a very questionable idea. One of the things that the article mentioned was that Mr. Christoph, as he said, he went to a room full of people and asked them, and these were international experts, who do you think is winning? Is it Trump or is it China? And a show of hands showed China, and therefore China won. But I think the more relevant question is in the US. A show of hands and ask if the US will be completely independent of China in a 4 year time frame in terms of its rare earth dependence on China, and then a show of hands if President Trump has been responsible for prioritizing these financial sector private dealings into rare earth and rare materials and partnerships across the globe with the US government and reduce our reliance on China forever. I can bet you that hands down, it would be hands up for President Trump having won this war. And until next time, this is Seema Arora signing off for now.